This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are here today on National Apprenticeship Week. We are very excited here at CareerSource, and we are having multiple educational webinars this week to celebrate, as well as a virtual apprenticeship fair tomorrow. So if you're looking for a role that is a earn as you learn apprenticeship type of job, we welcome you to attend that job fair. It's virtual. I'd like to mention that we have the chat here for any questions that you might have. We hold them into the end, and then after we're done, we'll go through the questions. If we run out of time, we can either stay a few extra minutes or I'll answer some of those questions separately. So please feel free to write your questions in the chat. My name is Doreen Lund, and I am with CareerSource Northeast Florida. We are an organization that helps to connect employers with job seekers, and we promote training and upskilling the community. And my title is Apprenticeship Navigator, which basically means that I work to educate employers and job seekers about the benefits of apprenticeship, and we help to develop new ones. And I like to work with job seekers to help you find opportunities that are apprenticeships in your interest, your area of interest. So if you're a high schooler or a college student or a parent or a job seeker looking to start a new career, hopefully you learn some great benefits of apprenticeship and consider that for your next career. And I'd like to introduce our guests. I'm very grateful. We have several people with us to talk firsthand about what it's like to be an apprentice or the benefits of apprenticeship. First, Mr. Mike Brennan. He is the Senior Vice President of Miller Electric, and he was an apprentice himself years ago. You want to say hi, Mike? Okay. You can see him.
Sorry, I forgot I was on mute. It's so good to be with y'all tonight, and look forward to talking about apprenticeship and letting you know what a great opportunity it's been for me. So.
Awesome. And we have two current apprentices. Emily Bryson, she works in IT and computing. Do you want to say hi? Emily. Okay. And we also have Sarah Wenzel, who is an electrical apprentice.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Thanks. And with her is Mr. Danny Van Sickle, and he is the director of the Electrical Training Alliance, and he was an extra special bonus guest today.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here.
Awesome. All right. Well, we can get started. Easily. Okay. So apprenticeships are a workforce solution. And I like using that word solution because I think sometimes we have concerns and we are looking for that solution. So if you're an employer or a job seeker, this may help resolve some of those questions or concerns you might have. It's an earn as you learn model. So this is a really important concept for a lot of job seekers. If you are looking to move into a new career, sometimes you have to leave the workforce, go back to school, maybe incur some college debt. And that's really difficult for a lot of people. You have bills, you might have children, there's responsibilities. And so apprenticeship is an opportunity for you to stay in the workforce, earn as you learn, and move into possibly a new career without any of that college debt. So if this is what you imagine when you hear the word apprentice, this is kind of an outdated video or an outdated visual, this dark and dingy area where a mentor is passing down information. So that model is still the same, but we're now looking at new and improved, and these are the internships and the apprenticeships of today. Lots of new industries, innovative jobs, and we're very excited about spreading apprenticeship into new fields. If everyone can put their mic on mute, that would be great. We're having some noise. So if you are not familiar with apprenticeships, we'd love to talk to you about that. So Danny, can you review that?
Yes, I'll be glad to. So earn as you learn is one of the concepts that we really push here whenever we're talking about apprenticeships. With our apprenticeship basic and other state registered apprenticeships, there is no unpaid internships. So all of our students work full-time jobs. At our apprenticeship, we have over 10 contractors that we utilize and that contribute to our apprenticeship fund. And when you're an apprentice with us, you work a full-time job with one of those contractors during the day. And then you learn about the technical aspects at night. So there's no unpaid internship or anything like that with us. All of our apprentices work underneath the supervision of what we call a journey worker. Basically, it's where they pass down those skills, but it's also so, you can have someone that you're working with, someone that you can ask questions to. Whenever we get a new apprentice and we put them out on the job, we understand that, based on their skill level, they don't know what they're doing when they first get there. But it's the journey worker's responsibility to teach them what they're doing. In a perfect case scenario, the apprentice learns to do it just like the journey worker, and now they both can be working and get even more production done. The certifications that you get with us, some are national, some are exclusive to us. Most people have heard of OSHA 10 and OSHA 30. We have 4 certified OSHA outreach instructors on our staff. So every apprentice, when they finish our apprenticeship, they receive OSHA 10 as a first-year apprentice, and then they receive OSHA 30 as a 5th-year apprentice. We also have affiliations with the Fiber Optic Association of America and Underwriters Laboratory. So there are several third-party certifications that are partners with us, and all of our students get those certifications whenever they finish. But I'd really like to highlight the last part of that bullet point that says without college debt. State of Florida has a statute that registered apprenticeships do not charge tuition. So therefore, there is no cost to our students to go here. The only thing they pay for are the books and the course fees. And we have mechanisms in place that if you reach certain threshold, you even get discounts on your books the next year. So there's really a great opportunity to come here and not have to go in that deep debt and be burdened by that when you finish the apprenticeship like you would at college and then have to pay that back. When it comes to recruiting and training and retaining, to begin with, we recruit a large swath, and we are very diverse in our recruitment. We recruit inner city schools, we recruit rural schools, we recruit organizations such as Girl Scouts of America. We recruit at Navy bases where men and women might have 15 or 20 years of experience in the military and then want to get into our program. The trustees, which are the ones I work for, really have a mindset like I do of we want to cast a wide net and we want to make this opportunity available to as many people as possible. The more diverse group and the more people that apply with us, the better candidate really we should get. As far as the training, we have been here since 1945. So we have a very good track record of training young men and women and turning out real good journey workers for our industry. And when it comes to retaining the talent, that's really where the advancement comes in. Most of our apprentices, whenever they finish the apprenticeship and they're classified as a journey worker themselves, there are many career paths they can go down. They can be vice presidents, they can be inspectors, they can be foremen and superintendents. And so really most of the talent stays with the contractor because they have different career paths for them. The electrical industry, like a lot of other industries, is constantly changing. So we do a lot of solar photovoltaic at our apprenticeship now. We do a lot of vehicle charging. That's been a very big thing here the last couple of years. So we have industry-specific certifications just for those. And it's always going to be changed. So we try to stay ahead and look at what emerging technologies are, and we try to give all of our students the latest in our education. And when it comes to apprentices in the state of Florida is very robust. I'm fortunate. I get to go to a lot of conferences around the country, and I talk to a lot of other apprenticeship directors, and they tell me about how their states work. And I'm not just saying this because we're in Florida. Florida is very progressive and robust about its apprenticeship programs and its workforce development. And we're really fortunate to have the kind of structure that we have here.
Yeah, we have Apprentice Florida. I should mention that briefly. As he's mentioning, there are national apprenticeships, but here in Florida, we kind of like to do our own thing. And so we have Apprentice Florida, and a lot of these registered apprenticeships are with Apprenticeship Florida and not necessarily national. So talking about registered apprenticeships, there are some companies that do apprenticeships or training programs within, and they're just holding it within their organization, and that's still great. You probably still have a really good opportunity there, but best practices is that the organization registers the program either nationally or with the state of Florida. The reason for that is that there is some oversight. So we know that these programs are the best quality. They're getting reviewed every year. So a lot of the ones that we work with are registered apprenticeships with the state of Florida. So if you were to work in one of those, what you would expect is at least a year-long amount of training. It could be from 1 year to 5 years of training. There is book work, which is, we consider that supplemental instruction. So that's the classroom, or maybe it's online, but there is that learning aspect that's more, educational in a way that's through a book versus the hands-on year-long on the job training. You also have a increase in pay as your skills increase. So you're going to start out at a lower rate because you're starting out as a brand new person without all the skills that are needed. And as you learn skills and as time goes on, you know what your next raise is going to be. And that helps to keep people, motivated with that. There is a national credential in the field. And so once you complete your apprenticeship, it's like having a degree. You can walk away and get a job somewhere else. You can get a job nationally. You are certified in that occupation nationwide. Can I mention or ask Danny to talk about that for a minute, actually?
Yeah, so in our case, once you finish the apprenticeship program, you get a completion certificate, and it's issued by the National Electrical Training Alliance. And the National Electrical Training Alliance is sponsored by two very large organizations. One is the National Electrical Contractors Association, and the other is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And those two organizations have chapters all around the country that recognize our completion certificate. So once you finish our program here, you can go to other states and you don't have to go through their school, and you don't have to go through their program. They recognize the skills and the related training and the on-the-job experience that you got here locally in Jacksonville, Florida. And when you go to those areas, you make the wages that are in those areas. So there are certain areas of the country where the wages themselves might be $120,000, $150,000 a year. And you get that whenever you go there without having to go through their program, because our completion certificate is recognized nationally.
Great, thank you so much. And the last one there actually says job at sponsor company. So just so you understand, this is a job. This is not an internship. It's not a temporary role. You are actually hired from day one. And so if there are benefits at that company, you're accumulating those benefits, you're accumulating vacation time. You are getting that seniority just as if you were a fully trained employee. This is just a slide from the Department of Labor to show you how apprenticeships are kind of snowballing and growing. Over time, over the last 10 years, the number of apprentices countrywide has grown by 64%. And even taking COVID into account, there are 2 million new apprentices in the last 10 years and over 14,000 new programs. So this is not going away. We've realized the strength of this workforce model, and it's just continuing to grow. And they're moving into all new fields, additional non-traditional fields. We've seen apprenticeships in skilled trades for decades. And now we're moving it into non-traditional fields, basically. You can see here a list of several different industries. We have all of these just in Northeast Florida alone. Countrywide, we have about 1,200 different occupations. And here in Florida, about 2 months ago, we were at 99. We're probably at 100 right now. So hopefully any industry or field that you're interested in, you would be able to find something in your field. And you would not have to go to college or get training outside of your job. So you might be wondering who else uses apprenticeships. Lots of organizations that you've all heard of. They understand the strength of apprenticeship and how it works. It does help their retention. It helps their production. It helps diversity. So it helps in a lot of ways for a lot of employers. Employers are growing all the time, and they just keep adding this as a new workforce model. So the benefits of being an apprentice. Mike, can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like was mentioned before, you know, there are certain steps. So like with our program, like Danny had said, that every year you advance to that next step. So you know what that next step is, what that next pay raise is, and you've got that ability to advance in your career and build a career without the college debt. And that's just huge with the apprenticeship model. So we've got the no college debt. You've got an established career path, and your skills increase, and you know where that next step is. You're on job training with a mentor. I mean, it's like one of our other guys that trains with us a lot, Tim. He mentions, you know, if you want to learn how to play a musical instrument, you don't just read a book about it. You pick the guitar or the piano up and you play and you practice. And that's how you get good at your skill and you own your skill. So that's what makes apprenticeship great. You get the technical aspect of it in the classroom, but then you actually go out in the field, you put your hands on it, and you do it. And that's what makes our model so powerful. If you're like myself, you learn by doing it, not just reading about it, and it sticks with you. And you're working along beside a trained professional that's in that. He's already an expert in that field, and he or she's 101 with you, pouring their knowledge into you if you'll accept it. So that's what makes it a great model. So, and the employer's invested in you. I mean, they've got a vested interest in you. Since it is tuition free, the employer is paying that tuition. It's not free to them. They're paying for you to get this education. So they take it very seriously, and they're invested in you doing it and want you to do well and want you to succeed. Danny will tell you, when we meet with our apprentices all the time, we're about that apprentice. We want them to be successful. We will do everything we can to help them be successful. And it's an opportunity to start a new career. You could start with no knowledge. I just had a meeting with several young men today talking about getting into it. And that was one of the things they wanted to know, what they needed to know to start. Well, you don't need anything. You don't need to know anything. You need to have a willingness to learn, and we'll teach you how to be an electrician in my case. But it's whatever the program is, that's what it's there for, and that's what it's designed for, to take you from not knowing anything about that field to making you a professional in whatever field you're training in. We talked about the nationally recognized curriculum and credentials. As Danny said, in our program, our credentials and our curriculum is taught nationwide within our organization, so you can take that anywhere in the country and work with it and be recognized in it. And that's, like Doreen had mentioned, a registered program. That's what's so important about the registered program, because there is a structure there, and there is a curriculum that's recognized and regulated by the state. So you are getting something that's recognized somewhere other than just that company that you're working for. If you were just working for a non-registered program at a certain company, it would be great for them, and that may be a great career move. Like Doreen said, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but we really push the national recognized credential and having that registered program. So it's a full-time position. I mentioned already the pay increases, but you work full-time just in our program. You work full-time, and like our apprenticeship every year, when you complete that year and you've done what you needed to do and you get your final, you move to that next pay level. And so that's something you can look forward to. You don't have to go ask your boss every year or every couple of years and beg for a raise. You know you can, the day one when you start our apprenticeship, I know what I'm going to make for the next 5 years. It's already laid out. And many programs, as ours, will have a college credit with it. So you get, it's not, we're not saying knocking college by doing an apprenticeship. College is great and has its place, and you can use what you've gotten out of the apprenticeship to get a big jump start on your degree. And like with our program, you're halfway there with the credits you get by completing our program. You're halfway to that 2-year degree. So, and with many employers, they again will pay for it. Like our company will pay for you to continue on and get that degree. So you get half the credits that you've got for free as you're going through, and then we'll pay for the rest of it to advance on and get your degree. So it's just a great model, and it keeps you from going into debt and incurring a bunch of debt and not know where you're going. You can go get a degree, but that college can't tell you what you're going to make in it. They can say, well, they'll sell you degrees all day long, but they can't tell you what kind of money you're going to make at the end of the day. And we can with an apprenticeship program and most any program that you get involved with. So it's a wonderful model.
Thanks so much. That's all great information. Interestingly, the old idea of apprenticeship actually is a very good match for the young people today, the Gen Z. There was a study done by the Society of Human Resource Management that named Gen Z the pragmatic generation, which basically means that they're concerned about their future. And we've seen that with the pandemic. Maybe they had family members who needed health care, or maybe their parents or grandparents are having a hard time retiring because we don't have pensions as much anymore. College debt is a big red flag for a lot of people. So the idea of working for a company, getting benefits, knowing that you have a good future is very important to a lot of young people. And apprenticeship is a really good match for those goals. So if you're thinking about, maybe this is a good fit for you, where would you find apprenticeships? So I'm going to show you a few websites. This is apprenticeship.gov. You can see the name there, apprenticeship.gov. This is the national site for apprenticeship, and there is a job search feature. You would find that under career seekers. If you click on there, you can find a job search. So you can put in your zip code and find out what's available near us. There's also the Florida Department of Education. The apprenticeships go through and are approved by the Department of Education because it is education. So we have on this website the approved registered apprenticeships. And so you can see a few of them here. I can't get them all. There's a long list, but this is, a short computer. So this is our region 3, the area here in Northeast Florida. So if you go to their website, search for apprenticeship, and we're region 3, and you can see there's a whole bunch: animal trainer, childcare, cook, cybersecurity, electric, lots of different industries. So you might find something of interest there. Employ Florida. This is the website with CareerSource. This is a job search tool for various types of jobs, but it also has apprentice. You can see I put in search for apprentice, and there's 264 opportunities listed. So there's a good number there. And then this is CareerSource's webpage. I put the QR code here that you can find pretty easily. This brings you to the apprenticeship page. It tells you about apprenticeship, and there's a contact form. So if you fill that out, it comes to me, and then I'll reach out to you to help you find an opportunity in the industry that you're interested in. Okay, so a good potential apprentice. Danny, can you talk about what you look for when you're hiring apprentices?
So whenever you get into our apprenticeship, we have a lot of applicants, and whenever they see our pay scales and they see our benefits, and they hear about being an electrician, most people who get in this, they get into it because they are looking for a career, not just for a job. We find our most successful apprentices are the ones that actually enjoy what they're doing. If you're just here to get a paycheck, most likely you're not going to last. So the career that this gives you and the people that you meet and what you learn is just really invaluable. And so that our most successful students really are the ones that see it for much more than just a job and a way to pay bills. We tell people a lot whenever they ask us about getting the program, about what it takes to get in and what do you have to know to be an electrician to get in the program. And we have a pretty basic answer: show up on time, show up every day, and have a good attitude. And that's where the work ethic comes in. You know, we can teach you a lot in our apprenticeship. We can teach you a lot of skills. We can teach you a lot of things in our industry, but we can't teach you to be dependable. And we can't teach you to be on time and to have a great attitude when you get there. Those are soft skills that you have to have before you ever get in. It's very demanding work, what we do, but it's very rewarding work. So it takes a very conscious person, obviously because of the job hazards that are out there. You have to be aware. And so we want someone that is actually enjoying themselves at work and is learning the craft and taking it in that direction. Speaking of taking direction, like I said earlier, you work under the supervision of someone else, and they have more experience than you, they have more years than you, and that's why you're working up underneath them. So you have to be able to take direction and value the mentorship that they give you. If they're telling you to do something a certain way, it's not that your way is wrong. It just probably means that their way is a little bit better or more efficient or more safer. And because we value safety a lot with us. So there is a lot of mentorship with us because you're looking up to the person that you're working with. And as a journey worker myself that was out in the field when I had an apprentice, I always had fulfillment passing my knowledge down. So there's a mentor-mentee relationship in there that really is invaluable. The time management is an obstacle for younger people, we find. People just don't realize that the time and effort it takes really to be a successful apprentice, a lot goes into it. You know, I mean, with us personally, you work, I used to say 40 hours a week, but here the last couple of years, most of our jobs have been running 50 and 60 hours a week. So you're working a full-time jobs, 40, 50 hours a week. You have to go to school 2 nights a week here at our facility. And a good apprentice is going to spend about the same time at home doing homework that they are in school. So if you're here for 6 hours a week, that means you're doing about 6 hours worth of homework at home. And so that's a major time commitment. Mike mentioned the pay schedule, and that was, if he asked me, one of the biggest benefits when I went through the apprenticeship is I never had to go ask for a raise, and I never had to go up to my boss or my superintendent and say, hey, I'm a good employee, can I get an extra quarter on my paycheck? No, our apprentices are based on a percentage of the journey worker scale. So they know every single year how much money that they're going to make without ever having to ask for it. And really, I think that there's a great deal in dignity and not having to go ask and know what you're going to make every year. And just like in all industries, I mean, you continually learn. We offer continuing education classes to all of the graduates of our apprenticeship program because of how much the industry changes. So you don't just go to school for 5 years and then you know everything. I finished the apprenticeship in 1999 and I'm still learning things to this day. So we tell all of our applicants that this isn't just a 5-year commitment, that this is really a lifetime commitment.
Awesome. And I know with you, they're also learning now about electrical vehicles because that's the new thing, right? So you're continuing to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Doreen,
an emerging industry, and we want to make sure that we can capture that industry, and that our apprentices are well trained for it.
Mike, were you going to say something as well?
Doreen, yeah, if I could, I'd like to just add a little bit to that first bullet point that Danny talked about there about what we're looking for we don't want people looking for a job. This is a career. Yeah, I mean, we know that you can go to McDonald's and you can make $15 an hour, which is what our first year apprentices make, or you can go drive a forklift and make $16, $17 an hour. We know that. But in 5 years from now, you're going to be making that $15 an hour at McDonald's, or you're going to be making that $16, $17 an hour driving that forklift. And that's not the case with apprenticeship. So you got to think about, we're hiring you for your knowledge, and we've already said we want green. We don't need you to know anything. We're going to teach you that. So you got to be willing to make that commitment and look at the long run, because it is very worth it and very rewarding. But if you're just looking at the here and now, apprenticeship may not sound so great to you. You know, you've got to go to school and you've got to not make as much money as you'd be making somewhere else, maybe with better working conditions. So you do have to think about that and consider it a career path, not just a job. That's very important.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for bringing that up. So you were talking about money. I did want to briefly show this graph. I just made this graph. It's not an official graph, but it is showing information regarding Florida salaries specifically. So the average debt of someone coming out of a four-year school is here. It's over $24,000. So if in this case, this is a college student and it's showing the salary of both a bachelor's degree student and someone who is doing an apprenticeship. So for the first 4 years, that student isn't earning anything. And if anything, they're probably going into a little bit of debt there. But the apprentice is earning, like you mentioned, about $15 an hour, depending on the role. And they're starting, they're earning benefits, they're getting vacation days, they are getting whatever is typical for each of the organizations, maybe a pension plan. So starting at 30,000 and moving up, an incremental amount. And then after both of them graduate that 4-year program, they're making about the same. And then they're both increasing a little bit. But you can see at the end of the 6 years that the apprentice has earned a significant amount of money comparatively. And it's going to take the bachelor's student a good number of years to catch up and possibly maybe surpass, but maybe not surpass an apprentice. So it has been measured in the past that an apprentice makes about $300,000 over the course of their lifetime, more than a bachelor's student. But even just in that short period of time, you can see that there is a really good opportunity to make solid financial decisions and a good salary. You can see the salaries here as well. Again, these are Florida salaries of 2021. Top starting salaries of bachelor's degree students in Florida. And this is an average salary. And you can see here, these are all 4-year apprenticeships. After the 4 years, this is where they're at. So the salaries are very much in line with a bachelor's student, and they've been making money the whole time. So now we'd like to hear from people who are doing it in the field. I know that's probably what you'd like to hear about. So if Sarah can, are you available?
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
Sarah Wenzel. She's a 3rd-year apprentice with the Electrical Training Alliance. And we'd love to hear from you. How is it going and why you chose apprentice, all of that.
As of right now, I am a 3rd-year apprentice. The time has gone by so incredibly fast. I remember when I first started, but when you're working and you're gaining all of this information and you're getting an amazing raise every year, it goes by really fast, and soon enough it's going to be over for me and I'll have to continue, trying to educate myself in the trade. But my favorite thing is definitely being able to work in the field as well as getting the technical training at school. Because like Mr. Brandon said, he learns better on the job. That's how I am as well. So definitely getting to meet a bunch of different journey workers, it really helps trying to determine the best fit for you and how you do things, because you can take a little bit of everybody's information and figure out the best or easiest way to do something. But I definitely would tell everybody, if college isn't the right way for them, I would definitely tell them to join an apprenticeship and get some knowledge and work from there.
Okay, great, thank you. And Emily Bryson, she's doing an apprenticeship with computing. Emily, are you available?
I am. Hello.
Hi.
So my background was originally in healthcare, and then I decided to go back to school many years later. So I have a bachelor's degree and I had the debt and everything. So when I decided to go back to school or start a new career, I knew I did not want to go down that same road. So I went through ACI to learn how to become an IT technician. And with that, they started apprenticeships while I was there, and I interviewed with PC Liquidations. That's who I am an apprentice with. And I am refurbishing computers for them. So it's definitely a great move, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get the job I wanted right out because I don't have the experience. So with PC, they know that I am new. I love the fact that they're constantly teaching me and learning, and they know that that's my role with them, is as a student, and I'm getting paid for it. So it's a definite benefit.
Awesome. And do they continue to train you as maybe when your apprenticeship is over? Is there future opportunities? Do you know that?
Yes, with PC liquidations, so I did it a little backwards, but a lot of people there, they will pay for you to get your certification through ACI Learning. They're on the at the warehouse. And they will pay for you to get your CompTIA A+ certification and your networking and Security Plus. You just have to dedicate I think an extra 6 months to them for sure. But they are definitely investing in their employees and helping you become more.
Great, yeah. And Sarah, I meant to ask you, you're in like a cohort, right? Like a group of apprentices, is that true? Do you feel like that has helped, either get you through it or maybe helps you to want to stay longer?
Yeah, definitely on the job when you're working with other apprentices. Number one, you make friends. Number two, it makes it easier to learn as a group because everybody else is sharing their opinions. And it becomes like a family. So I know all the guys at work, they have my back no matter what, which is something I really enjoy about it because I feel like I'm able to learn and trust these people that I'm working with.
That's great. Is it hard being a female? Is there other females in an industry?
Currently, I am the only female at my job site.
Good for you.
And there's definitely some tougher things about being a woman in the workplace, but it's nothing too hard. You get over it.
Good.
You learn to I don't know. You learn to live with the fact that you are a woman in that, kind of scenario, and that, maybe somebody's going to say something rude to you. That's pretty much all they're going to do. It shouldn't hurt you too bad because you're a woman in the workplace and you're doing that job, and that's pretty cool. So that's how I feel about it.
Mike, I want to ask you about your career as well, but in regards to what she's mentioning, I know Miller Electric has been really proactive in getting a diverse workforce, and I believe a woman was this was the first year that a woman won like your best apprentice award or something like that.
Yeah. Yes, I was going to mention that. It was our class, not this past year, but the year before. Our top 2 apprentices in that class were female students, and that was the first time in history. We've had other women go through the program before, and they're very good electricians, but this is the first year we had them at the top of the class, 2 women, so that was pretty awesome. And Sarah's done great. Danny and I both sat in when she interviewed, and she was just very engaged and joyous and bubbly, and she just kind of drew you in, and we knew we wanted her to be part of our organization. So I would love to ask Emily if I could, before I tell you a little bit about myself. Emily, so how is yours structured? How do you get the classroom time and the work time? Do you go in school in the evenings as well, like our program, just so we knew something other than our program, how it's structured a little bit?
Yes, it since ACI is usually about a 10-week program, I went during the evening, and we were the flagship apprentice program. So my apprenticeship did take a little bit of time to get off the ground. So I was almost done with my 10 weeks by the time we started. But we went 4 hours for 5 days a week for 10 weeks. And so now basically I'm on the job and studying on my off time for my certifications. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
So just to
Doreen,
jump on sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I
was just going to mention that, just for the audience, that just depending on the company, a lot of them do it different ways. Some of them do 2 hours a day, twice a week. That's when you're doing the studying time, or, half and half. Sounds like Emily had 4 hours of on the job and 4 hours of the book work. But The book work or the education part, it could be online, it could be in a classroom. That is about 150 hours, or it depends on the company and what kind of job you have. So it might not be for the full year. I saw there was a question about that, about maybe going to school at night and doing homework. So you don't have, this is not a continual part of the job, but it's just sporadic depending on what you're learning. And it might be part of your work day. I don't know if anyone else, the word homework, that makes it sound like you're bringing it home. Is that part of it? Or are you doing quote homework during work time, or either of you, I guess?
I'm doing studying for my certifications. So I did do 4 hours in the classroom for the 5 days a week for 10 weeks. And then, so now it's just studying and then, I have noticed though, one of the biggest benefits of doing the apprenticeship is a lot of what I'm studying is stuff that when I was in the classroom, it didn't really click. And then as soon as I started in my apprenticeship, everything fell into place. And I'm reading now and I'm like, oh, I do this at work now. And so it's making getting those certifications much easier. So lots of studying.
Great. All right. And then, Mike, if you wouldn't mind talking, you started as an apprentice, right? And now you are a senior vice president at Miller Electric. So how did your career go?
Well, I was 2 weeks from high school, and all of my families, and they're all plumbers from a long line, uncles and grandfather and father, and owned their own business in Jacksonville. I just assumed I was going to be a plumber. So 2 weeks before high school graduation, my dad come to me and said, how would you like to be an electrician? They got nice, clean, easy work and make lots of money. Well, he wasn't really he didn't know all he thought he knew about electrician, because I didn't have nice, clean, easy work, but I went that route. And so I worked a year as a helper, CW now we call them, but before I was accepted into the apprenticeship program. It was just back then that we didn't take as many in, and it was a lot more. Plus we have certain times that we accept applications, and when I started, it was already cut off for the year, so I had to wait till the following year. But I worked a year as a helper, and then I got an apprenticeship, and I worked the 5 years through my apprenticeship program, advancing every year to the next stage. And then I became a journey person and foreman and superintendent, and worked my way up and went in the office after about 10 years, 15 years of being in the field. And then now today, senior vice president. I never dreamed that would be my career path. That was not even on my radar. But and I don't like to brag on me. I'm not bragging on me. I'm bragging on that opportunity that the apprenticeship gave to me, because I would have if I'd have went to college, I would have wasted somebody's money, my father's or grants or something. I wouldn't. I just don't learn that way. So I would have wasted that, and no telling where I would have ended up with a job. But the apprenticeship taught me that discipline and showed me every day you're looking at an example of somebody that's made it. So you think it's tough and it's hard, but you're working alongside somebody that is an expert in that field, and they've done what you've done, and they've been where you've been. So you got an example every day that it's possible to make it. The 5 years seemed daunting to think about that when you first get into it. And Sarah mentioned it perfectly while ago. I was going to say it, but she said her 3 years have flown by already. My 5 years flown by. Shoot, my 35 years that I've had at the trade have flown by. So don't be scared of that time, because trust me, it'll all be worth it. But the apprenticeship gives you a great foundation to build upon there. I mean, we've got people in our program. Danny's a graduate of our program. He's our director of our training alliance, which is a huge responsibility, and he does an awesome job. And he's learned a lot of those skills and those management skills and those time management and every organizational skills. He's learned that being an apprentice. So we've got business owners, and we've got vice presidents, and we've got the executive level of my company, which is a level above me. There's 4 guys there, and all of them are apprenticeship graduates. They don't have a college degree at all. So the apprenticeship is just a great model, and it gets you there without having that debt, and you get to hone your skill, like Emily said, being able to see it in the classroom, and then it clicks when you actually put your hands on it in the field. That's what it's all about, just like that instrument I talked about. You don't learn to play the guitar by reading about it. I have always wanted to play the guitar my entire career, my entire life, and I learned to play guitar overnight video one time, and I woke up the next morning, I still could not play the guitar. So I'm telling you, you've got to pick it up and you've got to do it, and that's what you can do in the apprenticeship. and honing that skill every day with your hands on it. And that's how you learn it. That's how you get good at it. But I would encourage anybody, don't shy away from the apprenticeship model. Don't be scared. You got to put in the work. It's tough. I don't think any of us have tried to sugarcoat it. There is homework and there is a lot of classroom work. It's hard, but anything worth having, you got to work for it. It's not going to be given to you. You got to get out there and you've got to get it and you've got to want it. And you've got to, like we talked about before, you got to you got to look at the long game, because but it's very worth it and very rewarding in the end.
Thank you so much. If you are interested in looking at apprenticeship as a possibility, we are having a job fair. Tomorrow it is live from 10 to 1. So your recruiters are there online to chat. It's a virtual job fair, and all of the roles are earn as you learn or an official apprenticeship. I do have a list of some of the industries that are there. The ones with the little stars, those are registered apprenticeships, either nationally or with the state of Florida. And so there's a wide range. The QR code is there. Make it a little bit easier if you wanted to snap that. So if you did not yet register and you want to look at that, you can go in tomorrow from 10 to 1. It's live, but then after that, you can still review the information. So if you missed it, you can go in and see what their opportunities are, reach out to the recruiter. They will get your information. You can leave a resume. So the end of the week is when that will close, the end of Friday. And so we have some questions. Emily, there was a question for you. Dylan wanted to know, how did you find the computer refurbishing? Do you like it, I guess?
I really enjoy it. I've learned a lot and it's really enjoyable. We do stand and we're in a warehouse, but I can't say that really bothers me nearly as much as I thought it would. So it's fun. You don't think about anything else while you're there. So I've rarely had a job like that where you're just focused on what you're doing and taking apart the computers and everything. So.
Awesome. Manuel had a question. I answered it, but I'd like to hear from you all. He said that most apprenticeship programs have waiting lists, or that's what he's come across. Is this common? I mentioned that some programs, take groups at a time possibly, or do they just have openings at certain times of the year? So they might hold on to your information, but go ahead. Do you have waiting lists?
Well, I can speak to that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Danny.
Yes,
I was going to say you could do that.
Yeah, thank you. So we have an open application process. So we accept applications all year. And the deadline for those applications is once in the spring, which is May, for the class that starts in July. And then our fall deadline is November for the class that starts in January. So we take applications all year, but at some point we have a cutoff point for when that next school year starts. And the way how our standards, our state register standards are, is we interview everyone that qualifies for the interview and they get ranked. I have 6 trustees that I work for, and they give them a score. And the applicant's score is an average of those 6 scores. And so if we interview, let's say this last year, we interviewed 250 people, somebody was ranked number 1 and somebody was ranked number 250. And once our trustees come up with a number, it's real easy. If they decide to take in 40 apprentices, number 39 is in, number 41 doesn't make it in. If they take in 100 apprentices, number 99 is in, number 101 doesn't make it in. But we keep that list for a 2-year list. So let's say we take in 30 apprentices and then 4 months later, we want to take in another 10 apprentices. We go off of that list. So now we offer number 31 through number 40. That list is kept by the state apprenticeship representative, which I saw the slide up earlier, Mr. Bill Lauer. He's over us. And he looks at that list and we pull off of that list for 2 years.
2 years, that's great.
So I guess, yes, there is a list, and that's in ours, but in construction in general, Danny will tell you too, they all kind of work that same way in our construction trade, but there is like I mentioned, I was a helper for a year. So there is availability to get into the trade and if nothing else, see if you like it before you commit to that apprenticeship. You may get into our entry level prior to the apprenticeship and say, this ain't for me, and then you go away, no harm, no foul, and you haven't gotten the program and made that commitment. So there is levels, at least in the construction. That's what we can speak of. There is a waiting list, but there's other ways to get in. And like Danny said, with ours, we may take 40 one year and 100 the next. So that's always different. Now, the last several years, we've taken 100 or 100 plus every year. So there's a great need. So I would just encourage you to look at whatever that industry is you're thinking about. Don't shy away from getting on a waiting list. If it's something you're passionate about doing, it's worth the wait.
Yeah, and that's a big misconception. A lot of people think you have to get into the apprenticeship before you go to work. And we have entry-level positions for people who are trying to get into the apprenticeship. And it works out really good. It gives them an idea of what the apprenticeship is going to be like without actually having made that commitment yet. But it also gives our contractors the opportunity to evaluate that person before they get in the apprenticeship. And in addition to that, we actually at our school, we have a pre-apprenticeship. It's only a 6-month commitment. And we do that in conjunction with the state through the Pathways to Opportunities grant. And we give the opportunity for young men and women to go through a 6-month pre-apprenticeship that's very similar to our first year of apprenticeship. And we supply their books, we supply their tools. And it really gives them a good opportunity to learn about our school and really give them a pathway to getting into a high-paying job.
Yeah, so pre-apprenticeship, we didn't really talk about that. Sometimes in the high schools, there were pre-apprenticeships, there were ones out in the community, and that is kind of giving you those tools and a little bit of experience before you enter an apprenticeship. And oftentimes the things that you learned in that pre-apprenticeship can be applied, and you may even be able to shorten the time frame that you would normally be in the apprenticeship. So pre-apprenticeships are also something that's listed on those actually, it's not listed, sorry. So there are a few pre-apprenticeships in this area, and one of them being the electrical one. We do have some more questions. Lucas says, I'm looking for any type of engineering. Is there any available soon? I can't find any where I live. Engineering, like if you wanted to be a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer, that would be something you need to go to college for. And get certified as an engineer. I mean, maybe Danny, you can talk to maybe electrical engineering, but there are also like mechatronics, robotics, advanced manufacturing. They're calling that engineering, and some of the college courses are considering that engineering as well. So you do need to be specific on what kind of engineering you're looking at.
Well, that's really a great question, because Mike had mentioned the college credit before.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 different articulation agreements. One with the local college, FSCJ, they'll give you 30 credits for finishing our program, and that goes toward an industrial management technology degree. But you can also use those credits for an engineering degree. We also have an agreement with an out-of-state college, Valdosta State University. They'll give you 47 credits toward a 4-year degree. So we actually do have graduates of our program that take advantage of those articulation agreements, and they do become electrical engineers and project managers.
Awesome.
Yes, and speaking of electrical engineers, the best ones that we've ever worked for are the ones that were electricians first. So it is a great way to get started and get that foundation and move on to get your degree with a lot of it paid for. So
Excellent. What advice would you give to stand out in the interview to rank better? That's a good question.
I would say, as being one of the trustees that interviews ours, I like to see someone that's attentive, that acts like you really want to be there. Dressed like Danny says all the time, we don't expect you to wear a 3-piece suit to come to our interview. I mean, some of them you may, but I'm speaking for ours. Just dress nice, not shorts and flip-flops, but you have a nice pair of slacks on and a nice shirt, and come in and present yourself well that way, and be attentive and act like you really care about being there. Eye contact, speak up and talk when you're asked the questions, that we can understand what you're saying. We see a lot of people that just hold their head down and mumble and whatever. So just act like you really want to be there. Because if you don't want to be there, we don't want you to be there. We want you to be part of it. So I would say that's some of the biggest, just, carry yourself well, professional, and be aware that it is an interview. It's a tryout, if you will. So, we've had that many times. We've had people that, we would ask the question and they just couldn't come up with an answer of any kind, and they would just want to pass on it. And we have jokingly told them, you realize you're in an interview, correct? So, just realize that you are an interview, you're in a tryout. So be prepared and the best you can, and just conduct yourself well and be present.
Great. And we have one asking about age, basically. I mean, the two young ladies here are young, but I mean, as far as I know, we are looking at people of all ages.
Yeah,
Correct.
I'm in my late 30s.
That's still pretty young, but yes, okay.
But my coworker, who's also an apprentice, she's in her 50s, and I think she actually started with career with you guys, and then moved
Oh,
through ACI and then to this apprenticeship, the same as me.
okay.
Well, for the record, Doreen, I was young when I started. So, but we don't have an age limit. There was a gentleman that went through the apprenticeship with me that was a retired master sergeant in the Navy. So, then when I was in my 20s, I thought he was in his 70s. He was probably 50, but so we don't have an age. I mean, as long as you're able to do the work and willing to do the work, we would love to entertain you. So there is no age limit in our program anyway.
And that's what I found for most, to be honest. I mean, you might feel like it's being directed at young people, just because maybe I've mentioned that, I was looking at high schoolers, what they're trying to find their new career, but this is not limited to young people out of high school. I used to work as an advisor in the colleges, and I had people all the time. This is what made me interested in apprenticeship. I would have people of all ages all the time coming in and talking to me, trying to change their career. But it was really difficult in some cases, because as they were older, sometimes they had bills to pay or children to take care of, and it was hard for them to go back to school as full-time, nursing program or something like that. And so apprenticeship is a solution there, because you can start working and earn money at the same time. But there has been various people of all ages moving into apprenticeship. I was just with Flagler Hospital today, and they had people that had been working there for at least 10 years now move into their apprenticeship program to do surgical technologist. So they are upskilling people that have already worked there in other areas into new fields. So it's not about age. We are excited for people who want to move into new fields. So I hope you don't think that it's directed at young people. I'm sorry if I gave that impression. Everybody. Okay, let's see, we have some more here. Okay. Will tomorrow be a good opportunity for an interview? So yes, tomorrow it is virtual, though it is like a chat. So most likely, if you show interest in one of the roles there and you can communicate with the recruiter live, you can submit your resume if you'd like. They'll probably, continue conversations with you outside of the virtual chat, I would think. They probably want to meet you at some point, but this is a good opportunity for you to ask questions, tell them that you're interested. If you need help with a resume, you can email it to me. I can try to help with that. But basically, they're really excited for people to come and show interest. And I would just love for any of you to look through some of those opportunities and see if there's anything that, piques your interest. There's a restaurant, there's law enforcement, there's the skilled trades, there's manufacturing, there's a whole bunch of different industries. And so some of them are starting immediately. Some of them, like we were just mentioning, might be starting, in January, or maybe even at the end of the school year. So just depending on, the program, but that's where you have that opportunity to ask. Anybody else? Okay. Lynn, I can work with you separately, okay? And we can maybe work on that. I think we're good as far as time is really at 7 right now. And I think we've got most of our, if not all of the questions answered. So I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank our guests so much for taking your time to answer these questions. My information is on the screen there, so please feel free to email me with questions. The CareerSource page has a link to apprenticeship where you can enter information in the contact form, and that'll come to me as well. So we want to wish you a good night, and thank you so much all for coming. Okay.
Thank you, Doreen.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having us.
me.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sarah, Emily.